Am I good enough? Do they like me? And that just kept growing worse. I just felt so isolated. I couldn't go to the supermarket alone because I was just getting panic attacks. And when you don't heal something, what I've realized or experienced is that it grows. I realized I don't like living like this. Then the only option you have is change. You only move or you only change when the pain of staying the same becomes bigger than the discomfort of growth. That was that moment for me. I was like, okay, nothing is more painful than this. Let me just do whatever it takes. If I would tell my younger self the amount of followers I have, that I'm helping people with confidence, and that actually it's my full-time job, I don't think she would believe that. I did a lot of exposure exercises.
Talk me through what's like an exposure exercise.
Hi, and welcome back to the Mindspo podcast. I'm your host, Rochelle Fox, and today I'm speaking with confident coach Melinde Huez. Now, I actually discovered Melinde through her epic Instagram reels, where her honest and just warm, bubbly approach to confidence just kept popping up in my feed, and I'm so glad it did. What makes Melinde's perspective on confidence so powerful is that she has truly walked this path herself. As you'll learn in this podcast, there was a time in her life when she couldn't even go to the supermarket alone or ask a stranger for directions without experiencing a panic attack. Her journey from just debilitating social anxiety to becoming this magnetic presence who is now helping thousands of women rediscover their own natural confidence, overcome things like overthinking, and build a truly loving relationships with themselves is not just inspiring, it's also filled with practical wisdom that you can apply. In this conversation, we explore what type of meditation became a game changer for her, allowing her to quieten her overthinking mind, and why confidence isn't just about becoming someone new, but rather actually uncovering who you've always been beneath the layers of limiting beliefs that are holding you back. Melinde also shares her approach to exposure exercises, which I found fascinating, and how you can use these small sustainable steps to help you face your fears without overwhelming your entire system. We also dive into the delicate balance between masculine and feminine energy, especially for those of us building careers and businesses, and how we can honor both our drive for achievement and our need for intuitive feminine flow. So whether you struggle with social anxiety, you find yourself overthinking in social situations, or you simply want to feel more authentically yourself and tap into more magnetic confidence, I know this conversation is going to offer you a refreshing perspective that goes beyond the typical confidence advice. So without further ado, let's dive into the interview. Melinde, welcome to the Mindspo podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We are in Amsterdam. I'm so excited to be here. You are Dutch. You're from the Netherlands originally.
Yes.
Oh, I've been loving being here. So it's so nice to have a Dutchie on the podcast. Big fan of the Dutch in my life. I have introduced you off camera and described a little bit about you and how you kind of came to the world that you are right now, what you're doing. But I'd just love to know from your end, like, what's your story? How did you become a confidence coach? Start me wherever that question finds you.
I love it. So I think I became a confidence coach and I started doing what I'm currently doing because I lacked the confidence for so long. And that absence, when I realized the absence and started working on feeling confident again and feeling good about myself again, my whole life changed, like internally, externally. And that inspired me so much to just share this work with people, because I don't want people to feel the same way I did for so many years, because it makes you feel so small. It makes the world so small, and there's so much to experience in yourself and out of yourself. And you can only get there, from my experience, by feeling good about yourself. Very simply stated. So that's kind of my motivation behind everything I do. And I apparently touch so many people by it. So many people joined me on this journey. So yeah.
I'd love you to go back in time to when you didn't feel as confident, outgoing, magnetic, and powerful as what you do now.
Yeah.
What were you like back then? Like, what's like the old you?
So I think it all dates back to like when I was 8. That was the first time when I realized I was overthinking a lot. I stopped being this playful child and I started just overthinking everything. And I thought this was just normal. So I didn't really spend that much energy thinking about what's wrong with me. And then as I became a teenager, it became worse. I started to overthink, okay, what are people thinking of me? Am I good enough? Do they like me? And that all comes down to you not liking yourself. Because if you're constantly thinking, do they like me? You believe there's something not to be liked. Or if I was very fearful that people would find me a bad person. So that just meant I thought I was a bad person, because otherwise you're not afraid of those things. And that just kept growing worse and worse until I got 18. And I don't know, I just felt so isolated. I couldn't go to the supermarket alone because I was just getting panic attacks. I thought strangers didn't like me. So yeah, that's really how it all started. And when you don't heal something, what I've realized or experienced is that it grows. And that really happened with my self-beliefs a lot.
Yeah. Was there like a key moment that you remember being like, I need to change this, something needs to give?
Yeah, every night I would just lay in bed, overthinking everything, like what I'd said, what I'd done, just really feeling miserable about myself. I realized, or I thought, my friends didn't like me. As I said, I wasn't able to really go outside anymore. And even if I was just walking outside and I needed to ask for directions, I would just get the biggest panic attacks internally. So I realized I don't like living like this. Then the only option you have is change. And that's what I did. And it feels so uncomfortable. And it always reminds me of this quote that says something like, you only move or you only change when the pain of staying the same becomes bigger than kind of the discomfort of growth.
Yeah.
And that was that moment for me. I was like, okay, nothing is more painful than this. Let me just do whatever it takes.
Yeah. So would you describe yourself as someone that had like a lot of social anxiety back then?
Yeah. I had a diagnosed social anxiety disorder as well.
Okay.
So it mostly came up in social situations, but it was also a generalized anxiety disorder. So I think if you're really anxious in one part of life, it's really easy to also let it affect other parts of your life.
Yeah. And what's been your transformation to go from that version of you that was really like scared and overwhelmed, didn't want to go outside, experiencing panic attacks, to like the version that I see today? Like I found you via Instagram. You just kept popping up on my feed. And I remember I sent you to Anna Luz, who works for us. I was like, is this girl from the Netherlands? She's just great. Like you just have this beautiful energy and just this, like I said, magnetic, this beautiful warmth to you. And I could see that you've been through some stuff. You can really sense that in your energy because you present the information that you do with such care and a tenderness.
Wow.
And you can sense that in the way that you go out and you talk about these topics. So what's been like the tools and the things that have helped you kind of on this journey to get to the woman that I see today?
First of all, thank you so much. Really, that's such a beautiful compliment. And there were so many different tools that I used to get here. The first thing really was meditation. Like when your mind is all over the place and it's telling you all of these things, it's really difficult to grow confident, to love yourself if all you're thinking is negative. So meditation really helped me to calm down and be present, because when you're truly present, there's not really a lot of room for anxiety, which is really nice. So meditation, biggest game changer to start with. And then I started learning a lot about the self-image. So basically the beliefs you have about yourself on a subconscious level. And the moment I realized what my self-image was, it was very negative. It were the beliefs, I'm not good enough, nobody likes me, and I'm a bad person. So it's really extreme. And when I started to heal that, my social anxiety disappeared, because all of a sudden I believed I was a good person. All of a sudden I believed people loved to be around me and that I was good enough. So why would I be socially anxious in that case? So those two, I feel like, made the biggest impact from being socially anxious to being normal. And exposure also really helped with that, like just facing your fears. Whatever you're afraid of, expose yourself in a very gentle manner. And that's really something I want to emphasize, because when we are afraid, just doing something that you're really afraid of can overwhelm you, especially if you have social anxiety or anxiety in general. So I did a lot of exposure exercises.
Talk me through, what's like an exposure exercise? What does that look like practically?
Okay, so just think about something that scares you. So for a socially anxious person, that could be maybe a party, while for someone who isn't socially anxious and maybe very career oriented, could be like maybe a workshop with a lot of people. And then what you write down is, okay, what are some other things about that specific thing that will get me there, that will scare me a little bit. So instead of just going to that party or just having that workshop already, you take the steps in between to build the resilience in yourself, kind of build the comfort and confidence before you do the very scary thing. So for someone with social anxiety, it could be, okay, first asking for directions, or getting a coffee alone, or having a walk alone, and then maybe going to a party with a friend before you go to a party without someone you know. So you kind of, that's an exposure exercise. So you just build up. And if something is too scary, you just ask yourself, what would make it less scary? And just do that. Like, the smaller the step, the most effective the result, like it's more stable. And for someone who doesn't struggle with social anxiety, for example, I want to give a workshop to 200 people. Okay, maybe I can first do something online with a smaller group, or talk to 10 people at the same time. And then you build your way up. And if you've done a workshop, for example, 100 people, 200 people isn't really going to be any more difficult. So that's an exposure exercise.
I love that, because it's really breaking down that big goal. And I think so often in this day and age, we think about that end thing that we want. We're like, I want to do this, but it's stepping stones, right? It's, if every single thing that you're doing is a step to get you to that bigger vision, then it's still part of the bigger vision. It's still part of the process.
Yeah, don't rush it. Especially if you're someone who has a lot of fears, which a lot of people do, which is normal. If you go too quick, you might have like motivation to move past the first few fears, and then they will all come up, and then you freeze and you procrastinate and you don't do anything. So rather just take the long route that is sustainable instead of just getting your nervous system all deregulated because you're facing all your biggest fears.
I've done that before. You're just going full force, and then all of a sudden it's just complete freeze.
So take your time.
What's something that you thought you would never be able to do that you're now doing?
Oh my gosh. Every little thing, like being very confident in social groups, like making a lot of new friends. At that time, I just didn't think I would find my people, because I was too afraid to walk up towards them or to feel like I belonged with them, like I deserved to be with them. So that's one really big thing. And besides that, just like my whole career, I can't, if I would tell my younger self the amount of followers I have, that I'm helping people with confidence, and that actually it's my full-time job, I don't think she would believe that. She would be excited, but
If you could go back in time to that younger version of you that didn't have the belief, that thought this was like a crazy dream, what would you say to her now?
I don't think I would say anything. I think I would comfort her.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. That also brings so much emotions up right now. Like, just give her comfort, give her love. Because I just know that she felt so alone. Even though she wasn't, but if you feel alone, you are alone. I always feel it like that. At least that's your reality in that sense. Yeah, I think she just needed a little bit of love, a good hug. Kind of the big sister love. And doing it together. I think, she did everything alone, and eventually I'm still finding it difficult to not do things alone, because I know I can count on myself. I think she just needed someone to kind of lean on, even though she wouldn't want to, because she already could with some people, but she didn't. So I think that I would give her, if I could, I would do that.
I love that answer so much. It's just no words, just love and affection and just being there. That's so beautiful. You speak a lot about confidence, and you are a very confident person. One of my big beliefs is that we have these words like confidence or power or being magnetic. And I think these words mean different things to different people. There's no right or wrong answer, but what does confidence mean to you? What does it mean to embody confidence?
Oh, I love it. I have two definitions that I use for confidence. One is kind of your belief in your abilities and your skills. And I don't really coach people on this, because it's really simple. If you're not confident in your abilities or skills, you just need to do it more. You need to get better. It's really that simple. And the other side, confidence, is truly how you feel about yourself, how worthy you feel, how deserving you feel, and just how good you feel about yourself in any given situation without being shaken by negativity or doubt. It doesn't mean you cannot feel those things. A lot of people, or sometimes online, it's like, you have to be confident. You don't have these doubts and fears, but you do, but they don't shake your essence. You still feel worthy. I could fail big time. I could have doubts, but I never really questioned myself and my worth because it doesn't really say anything about me. And I think that's what confidence is, when you realize that.
Yeah, that's really powerful. It's just like not letting the doubts have as much volume, as much power. Yeah.
Yeah.
I speak about that a lot with meditation. People go and they want to have no thoughts. I'm like, the thoughts are still going to be there. The negative voice, like I've been meditating for a decade. It doesn't necessarily completely go away. I always use this analogy of a car. I used to have this inner bitch that used to be driving my car, driving my life. And then now she was in the passenger seat for a while. Then she was in the back seat. Now she's in the boot with a gobsmacker on and she's completely tied up. Sometimes she's still banging on the car and I can hear her, but she's not driving anymore.
I love that.
Yeah. Now the universe God has the GPS and I let it self-drive most of the time. And I just sit back and we're all in the car together. Me, my higher self, my younger self. The younger self has now got the safety seat on. We're all in the car, but we all are just like allowing ourselves to have like a different level of power and a different level of voice.
I love that.
Yeah.
And also when I'm thinking about this example, sometimes that part of you also breaks free a little bit.
Yep.
But with the right tools, like when you just know how to handle these things, they end up in the back again.
Yeah, exactly. You can always get them back there. Yeah.
I love that.
Oh, thank you. I'm a big metaphor person. I think that's like a blessing and a curse. I think about everything visually. Someone explains something and all of a sudden my brain goes to, I'm in a car, or I'm down a river, and then I'm in a tree, and I want to explain the whole metaphor in my head.
Yeah, but it makes it so much easier to understand.
Yeah.
So much feeling behind it. I think if we can explain things in very simple senses, it's much easier to overcome things. I always love that as well. I always rather keep it simple than difficult. We don't need any more difficulty.
Oh, I agree on that. A big part of what you do online is you talk about embodiment and the power of embodiment. I'd love you to talk a little bit about your embodiment journey. What does embodiment mean to you?
Yeah. So embodiment is really stepping to the version that you desire to be. Sometimes people call it their highest self or their best self. Doesn't really matter. And what I've realized with embodiment, you can do it for everything. So when I had anxiety, I would embody a person who didn't have anxiety. So when you're applying that, okay, what does this person do? Maybe she indeed just asks people stuff. She doesn't really care. And then by taking those actions, you become that person. And that was the first step I really took in embodiment. And then a few years back, I started using embodiment, like having insane confidence, having insane goals. So what I normally do is just get specific, really specific, like what do they do? How do they dress? What habits do they have? How do they feel? And then I just start visualizing, feeling like them every single day. And it amazes me how quick your reality turns. Sometimes it takes literally one day and you feel like that person. And sometimes it takes 2 weeks, sometimes it takes 2 months, but it is guaranteed, which is insane that it's such a small kind of tool you can use, but it makes everything go quicker.
Yeah.
I love it.
I've been stalking your Instagram stories lately. I've got to say, you're doing something this year that I feel when I get a little bit later in this year and I'm grounded and not traveling so much, I want to bring into my life, and that's dance. I've seen you getting back into dance classes and moving and just activating that feminine energy. I think we all are at different stages of our embodiment journey. And right now you're bringing that back into your life. I'd love you just to talk about where you're at right now with your embodiment journey in 2025, bringing in that magnetic feminine.
I love that. Yeah, so I've been dancing my whole life.
Okay.
But I've noticed that in myself, I would always kind of hold back on sexiness, on being really feminine. And dancing, it was really a part for me to embody that.
Okay.
And what that brings in the embodiment journey, like there's discomfort, but at the other side of discomfort is the person you desire to be. So the first time I went to this class and you had to be really sexy and really feel yourself, I noticed there was like something holding me back of being like, oh, this is a little bit too much. But yeah, I just kept going, and I really want to bring that into my life, like being unapologetic, it really feels like. So I'm doing that in dance, in my social life a lot, but I also want to bring it into business, like having kind of that feminine playfulness. And it's really a journey. So yes, I embody through dance, through self-expression, but to bring it into business, I visualize. Otherwise, I don't know how to make that jump.
Yeah. With running a business and, you know, being in this kind of space of being online, I think it's so incredible to hear you go from someone that was very socially anxious, had a lot of confidence problems, to now building a following where so many eyes are on you. How have you navigated that? Has that come with challenges? Has that been like something quite easy for you, or what's been your journey with that?
Oh, it has been such a mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect, because when I started posting, you are afraid of opinions, but you face that fear. So I did that for a year. Then I wasn't really afraid of the opinions anymore, but then you're afraid of like saying something as an authority, right? You feel it?
Yeah, getting it right and making sure that you think about everyone. Gosh, you and I could have a long conversation about that. It is something that really comes up being in this space, because I think people maybe don't always understand how much we care. If you really care and have a lot of intention for your audience, you want to get it right, but then it's also your own personal experience. We can only ever speak from our own personal experience. So sorry, I really relate to you on that one. I was like, okay, that's a voice note conversation we're going to have.
So like everything comes up.
Yeah.
All your fears come up like tenfold, especially if your audience grows. You're going to have more opinions. You have to think about more things, or you choose to think about more things. A lot of limiting beliefs also come up. I think in the beginning of this journey, I was stuck at like 500 or 1,000 followers. And you have these limiting beliefs like, maybe what I say doesn't matter, nobody wants to listen, like all these old beliefs from childhood come up. And yeah, my belief is also like, just keep going. So I don't really take the beliefs too seriously. Like I let them be there. And sometimes they're really shitty, but I just keep going as if I wouldn't have that belief, and then they disappear. And also the success also comes with that, because if I listened to those doubts and those limiting beliefs, I would have stopped posting. I wouldn't have the reality I have now. So whenever there is a limiting belief coming up, I just keep going and kind of see what's on the other side. I don't really bounce back from that. I think the first time when I grew, so I had at one moment like 300,000 followers, and it came out of nowhere. The old belief came up of like, people don't care about me, but there was a very clear sign that people did care. But now with so many eyes on me, I was like, people don't really care, and they're gonna find out that they don't care.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a deep subconscious one.
Yeah, that one came up.
Yeah.
And it took me, I think, a good few months to to overcome that one.
Yeah. Growing an audience, and you're kind of dealing with so many eyes and opinions and voices on you, have you had to deal with many hate comments or any kind of negativity online, or has it been okay so far?
Sometimes when things go viral.
Yeah.
But I'm really proud of myself of never really letting that affect me. I'm really surprised by that, because in the beginning I was like, that's gonna really affect me. But then when it started happening, I didn't really care. So a lot of hate comments were mostly about appearance, but I'm fine about my appearance. And
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at you being like, who has a hate comment about your appearance? I will have words. What? This is like, online world is crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy. But the funny thing is, like, they were pointing out things I used to be really insecure about. And that is so interesting to me, that those specific things came up. The things that I used to fear came up.
Isn't it beautiful that something that used to make you so insecure, you can realize how embodied and confident you are, that it can come up with someone else saying it to you, like your worst nightmare, and instead of it crushing and crumbling you down, you're just so good with your tools that you're able to kind of like move through it.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it's a huge indicator.
Yeah, that makes me realize a lot of things. Like, it's insane to look back how I'm not taking anything personal, even when something is said personally. Which is insane, because in the past, as a socially anxious person, I would take everything personally that wasn't really meant for me. So if somebody was frowning in a conversation, I would be like, you don't like me. And now someone online can actually say to me, I don't like you, and nothing happens. It's insane.
Yeah. I feel like you've been on this journey of, to me, it sounds like learning to really love yourself and like yourself. What are some of the things that you've learned to love or like about yourself that maybe were challenging for you in the past?
Ooh, I think at first it was really my mental health, because it was not stable. And I used to think that was a really bad thing, and I would really feel down about that. the first thing on my self-love journey like years ago was just allowing that. I was like, you know what? Sometimes I have a good day, sometimes I have bad days, and I'm just gonna flow with whatever comes up. And that made me also more mentally stable, which is really funny.
I love that. It's just like allowing it to have space. Isn't it funny when we stop controlling the mind and judging it and we just let it be what it's going to be? It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I just had a bad day. It's not a bad month. It's not a bad year. It's just a day.
Yeah. I love that. No, and the same is with anxiety. Like when you accept that there's anxiety, the anxiety decreases. It's so weird. Or when you say you have anxiety or you make a joke about it, the anxiety reduces.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, what's something that maybe you didn't like in the past, but now you're like, you know what, I vibe this about myself.
Ooh. So it's not really like one specific thing outside of that I don't really like about myself, but I always felt like I was or too much or too quiet. So I would have years where I'd be like, I need to speak up more. And then after that year, I was like, I spoke too much. I should be silent more. And I really have come to love that about myself, that sometimes I have these weird energy spurges or a lot of energy, a lot of talking, taking up a lot of space. And then other times I just kind of disappear in the background. And I've come to really love that. But before, with the anxiety, there's always something wrong with you. So like, oh, I'm too silent, they will think I'm boring. Oh, I'm too loud, they think I'm too much. Even though most people don't really think that way.
It was like that never enough belief was so loud, and now you've quietened it down. I could be multitudes. I'm so curious, do you know your human design?
No.
Do you know your birth time?
No.
Oh no.
No, I really want to know this.
Yeah.
But my mom doesn't know.
Oh, yeah. I did this with my parents. When I had to find my human design, I'll never forget, I messaged my dad and then my mum. My mum like sent me a very quick message back, basically being like, I don't know, it was this many years ago. Like, you know, like kind of, why are you asking me this? My dad took so long to reply. He sent me this really beautiful long message, feeling really guilty.
Oh no.
It's like, it's one of the most important days of my life, and it was a very long time ago, and I'm really sorry I didn't know. But anyway, they ended up finding it on my hospital tag. Lady at the hospital, whoever you are that wrote my birth time on like the hospital tag, thank you, because now I can do my astrology and everything.
No, I need that, but I wasn't born in a hospital, so I was born at home.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my mom did it all at home for all my siblings.
Okay, wow. I feel like I need to get your mum on the podcast. What a superhero.
She is.
She is. Wow. How many siblings do you have?
2 others. I have an older brother and a younger sister, but yeah.
Wow, so you literally are a big sister.
Yeah.
No, she's very lucky to have you.
Aw, thank you.
That's so nice. Wow, how interesting. Yeah, I'd be so curious to know your human design, because I feel for me, like learning a little bit about human design kind of made a few of those things kind of land with energy. It's so funny with the energy side of stuff when you're talking about it. How did you find your true self? Like the version of you that you are now, it feels like it's very much your real self, your true self. You've rediscovered yourself. Is that something that you feel has been very intentional, or it's just kind of happened on this journey?
I think it just happened.
Yeah.
So what I always say is like, we are all confident in our essence. There are just all these layers on top of it. So limiting beliefs, traumas, doubts. And on this confidence journey, you kind of take off all these layers, and I realized, oh, I'm not actually changing into a person, actually becoming more me. The one I was actually before the age of 8, like that child has now become an adult. That's basically how I view this. So like confidence has been such a big part of the journey back to your authentic self. And the interesting thing that I see with a lot of people coming my way is that they're afraid to become a different person. So they're like, yes, I want confidence, but I don't want to become arrogant, or I don't want to become a different person. And that's like holding themselves back.
Yeah.
But after 2 months, they don't become a new person. They're just more them, but now they're relaxed. Now they're more...
I love that.
Yeah, take up more space. They're more themselves, basically.
Yeah. I love that. I'd love to talk actually a little bit about, I think there are a lot of extroverts out there that kind of seem to be naturally confident. And then there are introverts that look at that and think, do I have to be outgoing to be confident? Yeah. Do you feel that like introverts can find their confidence, and do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, if you're an introvert, there's so much to find in quiet confidence.
Ooh, quiet confidence.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
It's just being grounded in who you are, not having to speak up because you think you should speak up, that is confidence. Like just feeling good about yourself. If you're silent the whole day, if that's you, that's you. And confidence for introverts is really just being okay with that. So if they think they should be something else, they should be more extroverted, that shows that they still have some confidence work to do right there, because they're fine being introverts. And when we're extroverts, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're confident, because when I was really insecure, I was really outgoing. Like, I'm really social, so people didn't realize what was going on. And that I looked really confident. So just because people are extroverted doesn't mean they're confident. Just because you're an introvert doesn't mean you look insecure. I think confidence really is just allowing yourself in whatever way you are. So if you're extroverted, be extroverted. If you're introvert, be an introvert.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of something I say quite often about spirituality, is spirituality doesn't have a costume. It doesn't have a look. And I think the same is with confidence. It doesn't have a costume. It doesn't have a look. It's a feeling. It's like this inner feeling, this inner essence. And it's so interesting because I think we're so conditioned to look and see like that person is confident because look at them. But sometimes the most confident or the most beautiful people actually don't feel that inside of themselves. And I think the work that you're doing, it's not necessarily about looking like the most confident. Everything that you're doing is about feeling the most confident.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mastered the external look. Like, I knew how to look confident, I knew how to ask questions, so there was no attention on me. So I really mastered that, but internally I was crumbling. So yeah, it's so much more important how you feel than how you look. And it's so funny that we kind of judge people on how they look, right? If they're confident or not. And I've had actually people come my way and we have like this discovery call. And in my mind, I'm also judging, like, you don't have confidence issue. You are so well spoken, you're making jokes, you seem so confident, but internally it's a whole different world.
It's not the experience.
And
And it's so funny how even if things look great, if it doesn't feel good, then it just doesn't feel good. Love that. If you had an event coming up or something that you were going to and you were starting to feel a little bit of that social anxiety come up, what's something that you would do before that event or situation to really step into your confidence and feel your most powerful magnetic self?
I always take my time beforehand. So let's say I have a week. The first few days I would just feel that and I write about it. So what is coming up? Like, you cannot jump into confidence and ignore the negative feelings. So what is coming up? Is there a fear of being seen? Is there a fear of not being good enough? A fear of messing up? Not being an authority or something? And I would just like spend 1 or 2 days just feeling and writing about it. And then the next few days I will spend doing embodiment. So that is one, looking for proof for the opposite. So if I'm feeling like, I'm afraid I'm not enough of an expert, I will spend a whole week looking at all the proof out there that I am an expert, for example. And then just visualizing every single day.
I love that you're a big visualizer. That's probably one of my biggest tools that I like lean on to really step into that next version of me.
It's a shortcut.
It really is.
What is the last time that you've used visualization for?
Last thing I've used visualization for, intently, the event that I just did in London. So I did this big event for my book and I had over 100 people there, and I constantly for like 6 months prior to that event, I kept imagining being on that stage, stepping up, the end, when everyone was clapping, speaking with power, speaking with confidence, everything going well. One of the things I do with my visualization a lot is I think about the things that could go wrong and then I visualize my outcomes of how I would overcome them.
Oh, wow.
So I do a lot of overcoming visualizations. That's a big one for me, like getting into the process of like, okay, this happens. How do I recover from that? What do I do? What would the action be? Because then I feel like I have a plan to actually like move through that challenge.
I love that. That is such a big part of confidence as well. I do it with journaling. So worst case scenario journaling. So you write down, okay, what's the worst thing that can happen? Indeed, how am I going to solve it? And then you have best case scenario and you write down, how can I make sure that this will happen? And then you have action steps. And then you're calm, and then you're confident.
Because you have a plan. I feel like in life we always need to remember that we can't control the world. We can only ever control how we react to it. And one of my favorite sayings is just control the controllables, surrender the rest. Because
Yeah.
there's only so much we can control every single day, and then it just becomes, otherwise you do get into that overthinking, that anxiousness. When you have an overthinking day, if there's something comes up and you're like ruminating in your mind, what's your favorite tool to go to like lower that incessant voice that is just going in your head?
Two that really come up. One is not really a tool, but it's like self-compassion. It's okay that I feel this way. Let's just go a little bit slower today. What do I need today? Maybe I need to go outside, or I need to talk to a friend, or cook something, right? So it's really listening to myself with compassion. And the second one is really just meditation. If your mind is all over the place, calm down the mind, regulate the nervous system. And I always feel so much better after doing that. And it's so funny that sometimes it takes me a whole day to be like, you know what, I need to meditate. And then I feel better within 20 minutes.
Yeah, always. I always say meditation is my medication. It's the best.
Yeah.
What's your favorite type of meditation? What kind of meditation do you do?
Ooh, I love silence meditation. I love it because it just makes me feel so grateful for the breath. And if I'm grateful for the breath, I'm grateful for the whole day already. So I love that one. And yeah, once again, embodiment visualizations, meditations. I'm a really big fan of those. And one that I do sometimes is like meditations for the inner child. So if I have a limiting belief coming up, I do a meditation of going back to where I picked that up. But that one takes more energy. I do it only occasionally.
Yeah. Inner child work makes me bawl my eyes out. Honestly, the amount of times that I've gone, I should do some inner child work, and then I'm like, okay, I need to get into my pajamas, I need to go have a shower, take off all my makeup, I need to tell everyone that I'm not available, and I need to just get ready to be crying for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So healing though.
It is so healing.
But it is, I think it does take, it's not like a quick embodiment practice or a visualization practice. It's really sitting with yourself. And like you said, I loved at the beginning of this podcast when you said, when I asked, what would you say to your inner child? And you just said you wouldn't necessarily say anything. You'd just be there for them. And I feel like inner child work is something you can't rush.
You can't. It takes its time.
Yeah.
Things come up that you didn't even know you were holding on to. Like, indeed, you start crying about something and you're like, I didn't know that was still having such a big impact on me. But afterwards, you just feel so much more love to yourself. If you find it difficult to start this self-love journey, start by loving your inner child, because that is basically yourself already.
Yeah. Do you dance by yourself a lot? Like, what's your favorite song, like embodiment song that you would put on that would get you in the feels?
Oh, I don't know. To be honest, it switches all the time. So I'm an emotional dancer. So there's this one artist, Aurora.
Oh my gosh, yes. She makes me feel like my ancestors are being awoken.
Yeah.
The first time I ever heard a song from Aurora, I was like, are you my grandmother? Like, what is, like, she's not, but I was like, what is this?
It's incredible.
It's like a soul DNA. It was wild. And Chris was like, what are you playing? I'm just like, just shut up.
No, that one, it's amazing. I'm actually going to one of her concerts.
I'll stop.
This year.
I'm so jealous.
Amazing.
So good.
So I take these type of songs and it's more like intuitively, like moving and very empowering. And then sometimes I think Dochi is like really big right now. Like rap songs, like whatever, a bunch of different songs, like songs you feel sexy on or songs that make you cry. Like I just dance for self-expression. I also do it when I'm sad. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put on a song, I'm gonna dance and just show these emotions in my own way. And then I feel better. So dance every single day.
I love that. It sounds like to me you've been on such a journey of like overcoming, overthinking, your social anxiety, then you really went into confidence, and now you're going into like more embodiment work and self-image, but then also like feminine energy. I'd love you to talk about where you are at the moment in your own like feminine energies practice, and where are you sitting with that?
Ooh, where I'm sitting with that. I really noticed that a lot of this feminine work is one, being sensual, really being in touch with yourself, really listening to your intuition. So on one hand, I'm doing that a lot.
Do you find listening to your intuition easy?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends. If I'm really in tune with my emotions, then I am. But
do you have your intuition in your stomach, in your head? Is it a voice, or is it a knowing? How does it show? Because intuition it shows up so differently for everyone. I'm always so curious, like, How does intuition come through you?
There's this type of calmness around it. Yes, there might be fear, but there's this calmness behind it. And it's just very gentle. It's not screaming me to do certain things, so I really need to listen. So if I'm not in a state of listening, I'm always overthinking, I'm not going to hear the intuition.
Yeah.
But it's just a whisper sometimes. And then the whisper brings a lot of feelings in my chest. And I'm like, you know what? I should walk that way. And yeah, if you're not used to listening to your intuition, I love practicing it by doing like small daily things. If you need to walk to work, for example, and there are 2 ways you can walk, just listen to your body. Which one does it want to take? And I try doing that a lot. And then for the bigger questions, I know what a yes feels like for my intuition and a no.
That is such a great tip for people, because this is one of the tips and questions that I get so much in my own journey. And I think intuition shows up so differently for everyone. So that idea of just like sitting and asking yourself which way do you want to go, so that you can start, because I think a lot of the time we're looking for our intuition in these huge moments. I need to listen to my intuition of this like massive career decision.
Yeah.
And it's like when you try and listen to the inner voice for the first time at a time where there's so much fear, so much risk, and so many things coming up, it's almost, I'm not going to say impossible, but it is so difficult to actually find that voice if you haven't been listening to it.
Yeah, it's so funny that most of the time in those types of moments, you're like, you know, what does my heart tell me? You've never listened to your heart in the first place.
Yeah, and it just goes back to your tip at the beginning about like those baby steps. It's like doing those small little things.
Yeah, that's what I love, to make everything simple, because that's the only thing I make things stick for myself, for others. Yeah. So feminine energy, you're listening to your intuition more. What else is coming up for you? Receiving. That one is really difficult for me personally. It's like receiving in my relationship, but also in my friendships. It's like allowing help, asking for help. And it just brings so much calmness and vulnerability. I think as a woman, it's really nice to sometimes lean on people. And that really helps me with this kind of feminine energy. So yeah, it's like expression, it is leaning on people, but it's also maybe another layer of self-love. It's like loving yourself in a different way, because you're expressing yourself in a different way. When you become more feminine or more magnetic, you cannot be stiff and not allow yourself to do things. That really contradicts the energy. So it's also bringing self-love to the movement, if that makes sense. The new movement I'm making.
Yeah. How have you balanced being in your feminine and expressing that feminine energy also now with work, growing a platform, being in that, you know, career growth stage? How, has that presented any challenges for you?
For sure.
Yeah, I was like, if you say no to this question, then I'm going to have to book a coaching session because yeah, that for me is, I'll just, to tell you my own story as well, huge. I think it's for any woman in entrepreneurship, business, I think any woman working, gosh, like these are, to be able to balance that masculine energy that is so powerful and strong and incredible, and I love my masculine energy, but then also to have space for our feminine.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
I sometimes have periods where the masculine is taking over and I'm working too much, but I'm getting a lot done, which is nice, but there is less feel in what I do, and then eventually I feel burned out because I'm not doing things with a feeling. And then other times I'm doing everything with feeling, but not a lot is getting done.
Oh, babe, we're the same. Yeah. It's like sometimes I'll have these months where I'm just like, I'm just going with the flow. It's really good. And Chris is like, so what are we doing? Yeah, just feeling it out. And other months, like the last month, my book launch month, I felt like it wasn't my feminine, but there was a lot of masculine energy just to kind of keep showing up and doing it regardless of where I was in my cycle, because I didn't have a choice to control it. Yeah.
I think that's normal to have sometimes periods where you're more in your masculine, others when you're more in your feminine. So I just kind of play with them. And right now I'm actually in a period where I have both, but it needs to be really intentional. So the masculine comes in like specific tasks I need to do.
Oh, I love that.
Specific time frames I work in. And then the feminine can do whatever she wants in that time, as long as it gets done in whatever way she likes. And if there's one task that she actually wants to spend 4 hours on instead of 1, she does that. Like I listen to that intuition, but there is some masculine energy like guiding me, also stopping me from working. So it's 5, no work. Tomorrow's not a play day.
Yeah. So you're just kind of having those boundaries and listening to those two parts of yourself.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
Okay.
But maybe in a few months, few weeks, I could be in a totally different energy.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of entrepreneurship or just balancing these energies is just accepting that as well. That sometimes, okay, you're more in your feminine, sometimes you're more in your masculine.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world as long as you're happy and you're actually moving forward a little bit.
I think that's so important to say, because I do feel when this conversation started with masculine and feminine energy, I do feel like it was very crowded and there was so much kind of reverence and awe for the feminine. And I found that difficult to start off with because, yes, I have that, but wow, my masculine has gotten me through so much. Like it has held me. So it's about, really learning how to love all parts of ourselves.
Yeah, they're both amazing. But I do understand your love for the masculine.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the masculine energy. Like indeed, I think we are both really hard workers.
Yeah.
And that's the masculine just coming through.
Yeah, it is. And you have to have this respect of it has gotten you to where you are. And I think it's about, sometimes I imagine it as a sword. So it's like we're carrying this belt, and I imagine myself, like if I was imagining myself as like some kind of warrior princess, this is my imaginative brain again, but I imagine myself as some kind of like tribal goddess with this beautiful belt, and my masculine is my sword, and always carrying it, and it's there, and I can pick it up whenever I want, but it's still there and I can feel the weight of it. It's just like using it at all times, but it's just always there. And I think that it's just knowing that it's there and it's gotten me through so many battles and it's helped me so much. And I can't like shit on this thing. Like I have to have reverence and respect for it.
I love that. Do you feel like you're more embodying the feminine and just using the masculine when you need it?
Yeah, I do feel like for me lately, especially in the last year, I was very much my feminine when I was writing, and I canceled, when I wrote my book, I canceled so many things. I stopped this podcast. I stopped so much because it was a very conscious decision. I wanted to be in a becoming, a being energy. And that was actually a difficult choice to make because I could have done it the other way and I would have done it. But I would have done it, but would I have been it?
Ooh.
So I would have got it all done, but would I have really been in it? Would I be embodying it? Wow. And so for me, it was like, no, I'm not going to just do it. I'm going to be in it and be in my feminine. And then when everything's come out, I feel like my masculine's been like, all right, we're back. We're in business. We've got a schedule. We've got a book launch to go. So it has this fire up energy that's there. But I spent so much time in my feminine in the last year, which was beautiful.
It is beautiful, but was it difficult to get out of it again? Because it's so comforting as well to be there.
It's funny, it actually wasn't. I think because I was so ready to do everything that I was doing. That said, I do feel like it's more difficult to get out of the masculine and back into the feminine. Yeah. Masculine's always been my default kind of mode. So I feel very easy to be in the masculine. So I can whip the sword out and go into warrior princess mode easy. Put the sword down though, that's an unraveling for me. And I have to be a lot more intentional, a lot more boundaries, a lot more communication with my partner. I think when I want my woman back. just be a munchkin again. I'm like boss babing everything. He's like, we can stop. Okay, I'll let you take over now.
I get that.
Yeah.
Putting that sword down is massive. Difficult. Sometimes, I feel like sometimes picking it up is also a little bit difficult because it's so comforting to be in like the feminine. Yeah. I'm like, oh gosh, I need structure again. I need a plan again. No.
Oh, honestly, this conversation I've absolutely loved speaking to you. And I think that anyone that is on a confidence journey, that's dealing with social anxiety, that is wanting to step into that feminine energy, you just have so much wisdom on your page. And you have just such a beautiful energy with the way that you deliver information that I think is really, like I said, like comforting and like a safe space for women. And I feel like when we're on this journey of discovering ourselves, we need to find our safe people. I don't know if you know the term comfort creators, like a comfort creator.
Yeah.
You are, to me, that feeling of like comfort online. And I think that anyone that is in my community that feels like they're wanting to go deeper on these topics, I think you're such an incredible person to follow and you have such great practical tips. So thank you so much for coming on the Mindspo podcast. Is there anything else that you wanted to say, or tell us where people can find you, or a little bit more about your work?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity and for having this chat together.
Yeah.
I absolutely look up to you. You're doing such wonderful work, with so much heart. I think that is what makes it so special. But where people can find me, just social media. Send me a DM if you want a specific tip or specific practices.
Drop your exact tag. What's the exact tag? What can I search for?
Grow with Linde.
Yep.
You can use. And I just started my own podcast where I go a little bit deeper, which is called Beyond the Layers.
Beautiful.
So,
oh, I love that name, by the way. Yeah.
Getting back to your essence. So they can find me right there.
Amazing. Well, everything that will be linked down in the description box. Thank you so much for coming on. And I hopefully see you on the podcast again one time in the future. Maybe if you're in Bali or Australia, or I'm back in Amsterdam. I love this place.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it as well.
I'm very lucky to live here. All right, over and out.
Thank you for joining me for this episode. You can discover more from Mindspo on Instagram and TikTok by following @Mindspo and myself @Rochelle_Fox. If this episode inspired you, then please pass it on and share the love. And lastly, always remember, you create your own reality. So go and make some magic.